Welcome to the Sports Lodge for another quick hit edition. I'm your host, John Lodge, and today we're talking about some name changes coming to mainstream sports, to the NFL and to the MLB, as well as some COVID-19 updates that might put a damper on some return to play hopes in America. First up, let's talk about Washington and Cleveland. Washington in the NFL, Cleveland in the MLB. Now, Washington has long battled against a name change. At least the owner of the team has long battled against a name change. Owner Dan Snyder has been quoted before. He actually tweeted before that he would never, and in capitals again, never change the name for anything. It seems his tune may have changed a little bit now, though, because FedEx, PepsiCo, and Nike have received notification from 87 investors who are who total up to about $680 billion. Those investors have asked these three companies to please cut ties with the Washington franchise until they choose to change their name. Nike going so far as to remove all Washington merchandise from their websites. And it's about time, to be honest. Just look at the name. The name that Washington uses derived from the term that was to scalp a Native American and be paid for it. The the owner who was responsible for changing the name was known to be racist. He was happy that his team was the last team to be racially integrated. Proud of it, he said. So it's about time for these name changes to happen. We've heard this before, and if you want my opinion on it, I think this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. It is money talks, money walks, man. $680 billion. You can't say anything to that. There's no way that Dan Snyder is going to lose that kind of money. There's no way that the shareholders are going to allow Dan Snyder to lose that kind of money. It's going to happen. What it gets changed to is now the topic of question. There are lots of names out there. And you know, a few are kind of hokey, but in my opinion, you have to tie it back to the city. It has to be creative. It just can't be the Washington Senators, even though they can't take the Washington Senators because it belongs to the Nationals and they'd have to buy the naming rights from them. But it can't be something hokey like that. It's got to have some sort of tie to the community so that it's believable, so that you can make the transition easy. Moving on to Cleveland, they also have a racist moniker that is racist against Native American culture, and they too have been in a process of change. A couple of years back, they had the caricature still on their jersey, the cartoon character, and they had since removed that and transitioned to their C logo, which I approve of. But you know, the name still stands. The name still is there, and their own manager, Terry Francona, has said that it is time for a name change. No more time for talk. It's time to just pick it up, change the name. It's been too long. There have been too many discussions about it. And I completely agree. And I know someone else who agrees is legendary broadcaster Jerry Howarth. Now, you might wonder why I bring him up. Jerry is an icon to me. He's a man who spent time with a young John Lodge and helped him along his way, along the path of talking about sports for a career. And I can't thank him enough for the advice he offered me, but also for the integrity he showed me in his career. I cannot remember him ever uttering the name of the Cleveland team as a broadcaster for the Blue Jays. He would just say Cleveland at the bat for Cleveland. He would call them by the city. He would not call them by their moniker because he believed that it was racist. And I mean that this progress must make him proud, I guess, is where I'm going. It's progress that is needed to happen. It's progress that even people inside who call the game, inside the league, have been talking about needed to happen. So good to see. Let's keep it going. Let's not stop at talking. Let's actually make the changes. Moving on to the COVID-19 talk, and this is where it gets a little bit somber because it's a problem right now. It's a problem in the United States. We all know what Florida is going through, Texas, California, a lot of hot spots over in America, recording 100,000 cases a day sometimes. I know in Florida, recording upwards of 10,000 cases a day. So this is the place where we're trying to quarantine our MLS and our NBA athletes. And I think that this was a flawed process from the beginning. The reason why the NBA chose Disney was one, yes, the area, but two, they knew that the governor was open to it. They knew that they could get the work done early, and they jumped on the first available option. And unfortunately, it's not going to work, in my opinion. You have a ton of people opting out, and it's just it's a dangerous, untenable situation in Florida right now. And talking about MLS, Carlos Vela, the top player in MLS, has just opted out. The Toronto team, Toronto FC, has not yet flown to Orlando. Neither have the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, FC says it's due to a testing issue. But in my opinion, if the tidal wave starts, why even leave? Right? If MLS is going to be forced to possibly shut down this return to play scenario, then why would MLS even have Toronto leave? If I was in charge, I would just put the hold on it until we have for sure that this thing is going to take place. Baseball is back, baby. Or is it? Yeah, we've got some pretty interesting things coming out of Major League Baseball recently, with a number of players opting out of the return of the MLB 2020 season. Most notably, we've got Ryan Zimmerman, Nick Markakis, David Price, Felix Hernandez, some pretty big names, some pretty notable names in the MLB. And recently, I found out that Freddie Freeman of the Atlanta Braves has tested positive for COVID-19. Freddie had made a phone call, or had received a phone call from Nick Markakis, and that was one of the key reasons why Markakis had decided not to return to play this year, because of how serious he realized this virus was from having a conversation with his friend who was suffering severely from it. Now, whether that means baseball is going to have to cancel the season or not, I don't know. But I can only speculate that if one player has felt the need to back off of the season because he's had a conversation with somebody who is suffering from the virus, then a few other players may too also make that same phone call or make that same choice. Most notably, in my mind, Mike Trout, who has a baby on the way here in the next couple months. It's really going to be an interesting time for Major League Baseball, because they're the league that never got started, right? And to never get started, it means that you don't have a lot of stake in this. There's not a lot of money to be made right now. We know that because there are no fans. And if you haven't started, then you really don't need to push on and hand a championship out. In regards to the NHL and the NBA, they feel a need because they had 70 games played in each league, basically 70 games played in each league, that they need to push on and to have a champion. If they don't have a champion, then it's detrimental to their leagues. But in the MLB's case, they can just call the whole season a wash. And I think that might be coming if they have a flood of star players and we'll call them uh, next level players decide that they do not want to take the risk. Mike Trout is the pin. He is the straw that will break the camel's back. As soon as Mike Trout says that he does not want to play, then you're going to get a flood of players not wanting to play. And then when that happens, Rob Manfred and the league are going to have to make a very difficult decision, one that I believe will be with the 2020 MLB season being completely canceled.